Once again, welcome to Nyankopong Native Teachings. And we're here tonight to really finish up what we have been doing as far as teaching the classes and getting through some of the necessary documents that we need to deal with. I'm going to wait a bit to see if Brother Nigel return. Brother Danny, over the pond. We're getting rain over this neck of the woods. Yeah, we're getting a lot of rains. I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, I couldn't unmute the mic. Yeah, the weather's been good,
All
The
right.
last couple of days been sunny.
Wow. Well, we're getting a storm for tonight. We're gonna see how best we deal
Mm.
with that for tonight. All right. While we wait on the brothers and sisters to come in. Brother Jackson, everything good?
Everything's good. I'm
Thanks,
locked
good.
and loaded and ready to go.
Uh, we have also Brother Kareem, all is well. Brother Taylor said that he's not going to be able to make it in tonight. So
Everybody, all is well.
Grand Rising, Grand Rising. Yeah, like you say, if we can set the pace for what's going on now. Tonight, as you know, we are trying to get to know more about using our native documents, the benefits that it brings, and some of the basic knowledge that goes with your documents. This tape that I'm about to play, it deals with taxes because a lot of people, I don't think that they are grasping the energy that our documents bring. Taxing. A lot of people believe that tax is something natural that you should just get up and pay, but we're trying to let our people know that that is something that was implemented. Grand Rising, Sister Janet. Hi, Chief Janet. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everybody,
Yes, yes. Thank you for coming on tonight. And get some
you're
things.
welcome.
Yeah, tonight we're trying to deal with documents. What are some of the things that um, the documents do for us as a native? So I want to put that forward. What's happening right here? Am I coming through properly? All right. I think we may have. Okay, let me come out. Okay. All right. It's my screen. I'm going to play this tape that explain to us how and why we are forced to pay taxes. And what's happening right here? Okay, right. Sometimes them technical things here kind of take a while on to come on board. I'll stop sharing and then go back to it. All right. So we have some more brothers and sisters.
Pay an income tax. But We the People Foundation, there is no law, and to date, nobody has been able to show that there is a law for the average American citizen working day in. There is no law, and to date, nobody has been able to show that there is a law for the average American citizen working day in and day out to pay an income tax. But We the People Foundation for Constitutional Education put a full-page ad in the USA Today on July 7th, 2000. And within the body of that ad was a $50,000 challenge for anyone that could show the law. And to me, $50,000 is a lot of money. So I went after that and did the research based on the fact that I thought, let's put this baby to bed. I'm hearing all these rumors. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. I'll answer these people's questions that are asking me, and then I'll win this $50,000.
And, based on the research that I did throughout the year 2000 and that I'm still doing, I have not found that law. I've asked Congress, we've asked a lot of people in the IRS commissioners, helpers. They can't answer, because if they answer, the American people are going to know that this whole thing is a fraud.
There is no law. There is no law that requires the average American worker in the private sector to pay a direct unapportioned tax on their labor and compensation for services. There is no law.
I really expected that, of course, there's a law that you can point to in the law book, the code, that requires you to file a tax return. Of course there is. Maybe I don't know what it is right then as he was speaking to me, but sure. So naively, I agreed to go off and research it and get back to him. 3.5 months later, I was at that point where I couldn't find the statute that clearly made a person liable, at least not me and most people I know. And I had no choice in my mind except to resign.
I had to leave the IRS because I presented evidence that I had accumulated indicating that the agency was violating the law and violating people's rights. And I asked the agency for a response to my sincere concerns. And the answer I got was that they would not respond to my concerns and that they would provide me with the paperwork necessary to tender my resignation.
You can look through the statutes and look for the law that requires you to pay. And when you do that, you can't identify a law that requires the average person in America who earns a wage and works in private business to pay an income tax.
American citizens, along with the foundation, have been asking the IRS to specifically provide them with the underlying legal foundation upon which they administer and enforce the personal income tax laws in our country.
At the national level, when people would attempt to contact somebody of a much higher authority, say the commissioner, same kind of thing. They would get answers that were in effect non-answers.
You have to understand that an agency which will unlawfully impose a tax that doesn't exist is not going to care. If we, the people, don't know what our rights are, they're not going to tell us.
If Americans just learned that the IRS was actually knowingly deceiving them, that would be enough for them to rise up and put a stop to it.
100% of what is collected is absorbed solely by interest on the federal debt. All individual income tax revenues are gone before 1 nickel is spent on the services taxpayers expect from government. People have been told, that you need this income tax system to fund government, which is absolutely ridiculous. My question is, well, if that's true, how did we fund government from 1776 to 1913?
The main purpose of the income tax is not to raise revenue, but to redistribute wealth and to control society.
A lot of people might say, well, gee, if there wasn't an income tax, what would happen to education? They don't understand that education is paid for the most part, out of state and local taxes, your property tax. People might say, well, how are we going to build and maintain our highways if there's no money coming into the government? We need our highways. There's a tax on every gallon of gasoline that people buy. Proceeds from the income tax do not pay for highway construction.
I believe that in both spirit and substance, our tax system has come to be un-American. Death and taxes may be inevitable, but unjust taxes are not.
This small booklet includes the Constitution of the United States, the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence. This is a document that every citizen should read. It's a document which freed an entire nation. This is the Internal Revenue Code, and this document and the unlawful application of this document by the Internal Revenue Service has enslaved the nation that this document attempted to free.
Yep. So we just watched something that is very convincing when it comes on to taxes, as what it's saying. Our documents give us the right to challenge the corporation. I just come off a call with one of our brother, and very, very interesting conversation. And that's why I said tonight I would pick up on this. Because in the back of our head, there are certain things that is always going to linger. And I wanted to play that tape because it show from a corporation point of view that it is actually criminal for them to be taxing us because we are not corporation. We're living man and woman. Our energy belongs to us. Anybody can answer why you think they tax us and why they think it's legal to tax us? They tax us because of
Because
the.
Well,
Go ahead.
because as your status makes you an employee of the you're an employee of the
You're,
states.
you're a property
So
of the
you
state.
you would be the you'll be an employee of the United States as a citizen.
Yes. So as a citizen, they can tax everything that happened to you, to your estate via your birth people. Now, as you hear, there, if we're not supposed to pay tax, there's something in place that we need to ask and inquire. Because you hear what the man say, him said that he usually work at the IRS, and he said that he doesn't pay any tax since he find out that there is no law that says you have to pay tax. But under the corporation maritime law, they can tax you because you are a citizen of the corporation and the corporation owns you the product. And until we take ourselves from out of the jurisdiction of the corporation, they have rules and regulation that we have to abide by. So that tape was to go ahead, go ahead.
if everyone was paying attention to most of the people in that video, they stated private. They repeated it multiple times. So that simply means if you're still with their birth paper, their driver's license, every contract they have, they could do whatever they want with us. The fact that we switched over, they can't do that, and we could stop them from taking taxes, just like how I stopped them from taking taxes out of my check already.
I don't know if anyone noticed, but all those people talking were former IRS agents.
Yes.
They're like Neo. When they woke up, they got pushed out of the
Mm-hmm.
system.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want them there anymore because now they could cause problems. That's why when he asked the question, the only thing they handed him was his resignation papers. Just like in the movie The Matrix, when Neo woke up, he was ejected from the system. So that's
Yes.
I mean that's the way they're looking at it.
Mm. Yo,
Exactly.
sometimes I feel like I don't need to teach class, because you are all way ahead of the straw men that are out there. When you're walking, you are more knowledgeable than a lot of brothers and sisters out there. But those answers that you've given is precisely why we are activating our estate and standing over our estate, not waiting for anyone to activate our estate for us. Grand Rising sister, Chiefess Crystal Anabina have just joined. Yes, so that is
Grand Rising.
yes. That is one of the benefits of our document. It is paramount over the corporation, any one of the corporations that's out there. Our document leave a space for dialogue. Now, I was saying that with us not paying taxes, what are some of the areas that when we go out in commerce that we need to really pinpoint? Anybody know? You're going into Walmart to do your shopping as a sovereign. We're the
Customer
first.
service.
Thank you.
Customer service. First place you have to go.
Thank you. Because what the IRS man said a while ago, you're not supposed to pay tax. But he also said that if they get a chance to ride you as a donkey, they will. But as they say, ignorance to the law is no excuse. So you being ignorant to the laws that is there to protect us is no excuse why they should um take advantage of you. So you go to your customer service, it's called customer service, customer care, and you inquire as to the rights of your document. And when you ask for the rights, when the customer care goes, they may try to tell you that they don't know about it. So you get the superior, as I said yesterday. Because I am playing this tape and I'll play it again because these are former federal workers who try to manipulate people on the outside, and they came back and find out that this manipulation that they are doing is it's illegal. These are status and codes. And do your document work off of laws or do it work off of status and codes? I'm asking a question.
Laws.
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 Definitely law.
So they have to show us where in the law it says that you do these things. So that was what I wanted to put forward. Crystal, you're just getting in. We're doing Nyankopong documents tonight as to how powerful they are and how best we can use them. Do you have any question?
No, not as yet.
Alrighty. We've just played a tape talking about the documents, the tax that they charge our people. There's a long thing I have here that I want to play, but it's about person. You are not a person. We have touched on this already, but this is very much detailing when it comes on to why, when you say you're not a person, what it actually means. Because the judicial corporation will try to twist us up. So I want us to take a peek into this. It's pertaining to our documents also. So we can learn from it. I think everything that we try to put out here, it does have some connection to our documents. So try our best to work with it. All right, let me get this sorted out. Cancel that. Try to get this here.
Joining me for another Stan McDonald moment. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, he disappeared for a long time and now he's back like buses with Stan. And I'm very thrilled. Today we're going to do something rather special. But before we tell you what that is, let's bring Stan back on. Hello, Stan. How are you?
Hello, Richard. It's good to be here.
It's good to be here. Now, today, This is one that I've kind of spoken about. Other people have talked about with the sort of sovereign people, lawful, unlawful, and what have you. And they've all said to me, Richard, you're not a person. But today you're going to prove that the government do know that we are actually not persons, but we're living men and women, I suppose. And they recognize that, but they like to make us think that we are. Is that a fair synopsis of what we're doing?
More or less, yes. In fact, they know that we're not a person, and we're going to show that. But see, ignorance of the law is no excuse, see? And when they don't tell you and you assume, like when they ask for your driver's license for ID, it's not yours, it belongs to the government. Right. But they have all statutes so far that I've looked up, and this applies to not only the UK, but today's topic will be the UK. You guys can apply it everywhere else. You're going to find out that they already know the truth. But if you don't know the truth and they can hoodwink you, they will. And we're going to expose the truth. So today I would suggest everybody get out their pens, pencils, or crayons and start looking at the statutes. Because like I said earlier in one of our other talks, you have to read the statute for what it is.
Yes.
So
yes, we've had people on the show who said, you know, you're a living man and all of this. And then they avoid all the statutes rather than sort of proving that the government do understand that we are not these persons, but they convince us that we are these persons. And so we register and pretend and turn up and give them the jurisdiction and all of that.
Right. Well, that crap ends today, buddy. That's the thing. That ends today because the thing is, if you have, or if you look into law statutes, okay, or whatever, there's a dictionary. It's called Black's Law Dictionary. And a lot of people go to Black's Law Dictionary and they try to argue it, that they're not the person and everything else. But see, that Black's Law Dictionary was written by somebody, right? William Black or whatever the guy was, name that wrote it. And it's a publisher. But we actually have the proof right in their own statute. So I'm going to use their statute against them. Right. Now there's no more need to say, I'm not the fiction, I'm not the capitalized name. We don't care. Because if their statutes are supposed to be the gospel and we're supposed to follow the statutes, then let's use the statute against them. And that's exactly what we're going to do today. And this is going to apply to a bunch of things. Not only what we cover today. I mean, I could be here for a couple hours. We're going to give you the overview. It's up to you to then take it to the next step. That's pretty much.
Yep. So pens and papers at the ready. There'll be a test at the end.
Yep. And if they won't give you sharp tools, use your kids' crayons.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So as ever, we've got a presentation, which I hope I've got in the correct order and is displaying right on the screen.
Yeah. So today, what we're going to touch on just briefly is council tax, because I know that's everybody's favorite topic.
Oh yeah.
And we're gonna deal with income tax. We're gonna deal with vehicles, parking permits, and driving offenses. But this applies to everybody. So if we go to the next slide, Richard.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if we go back to 1215, that was sort of the creation of the Constitution, if you will. Now, if we look at 1215, okay, it was the first document put into writing. And it comes right off the UK website, so you can't, they can't give you this malarkey that it doesn't exist. Okay? So this predates the creation of the UK system because that was in 1688. And if you remember, we did a presentation on what's called I call it primary legislation, because you always got to go back to the basics, the start of everything, right?
Right.
And some people have a different interpretation of primary and secondary legislation. But for the explanation, that's what created the foundation of the current monarch and the current government. And so if you're not party to a contract or an agreement, right, which is the Magna Carta, let's just use that for reference, then you have no authority to change it. You're not privy to that contract or that agreement, you can't change it, right? Simple enough.
Yeah.
So we're going to disprove one of the myths that the government tries to perpetrate on the people. And we're actually going to do it at least twice.
Everybody can read. Have anyone read the Magna Carta as yet?
No, first now I hear about it. I'm gonna check it out.
All right. Write the website down. It's on the UK Parliament. and you're going to search and put in Magna Carta. The Magna Carta was issued in June 1215. 1215. And was the first document to put into writing the principle that the king and his government was not above the law. It sought to prevent the king from exploiting his power and placed limits of royal authority by establishing laws as a power in itself. The Magna Carta, we have to study.
This is the first thing. So the 1215 Magna Carta, basically the person that signed that, okay, and I'm using that term loosely, turned around and they were forced into it. And that's a history lesson we don't need to get into. But the government can't say that it doesn't recognize the Magna Carta. There's a screen capture. You know, keep that if you want. Use it in your document. I don't care. So if we go to the next slide, we find out in 1688 there were several acts that were enlisted. The first act, if you look there on the list there, it says C1, C2, and so on and so forth. So it says the Act of Will and Mar, 1688. That was the creation of the government, and then within that time frame of 1688, there was the Bill of Rights, which gave the subjects, you people that are the general population, you're the subjects of this. And then there was the coronation oath that said every successor to the crown had to swear an oath back to the crown. And then we got the Great Seal Act, which basically states that all the government official documents are supposed to have a seal, if you will. So that was the creation of our current government. So if you can see the 1688 year, the other one was 1215. So the Magna Carta still stands, right? Because they have no jurisdiction to change something that they weren't involved in. So when the government says it has total supremacy or whatever, and we'll get into that a little later, you're going to see that that's a fallacy, right? It's false. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to find out something here. Okay, the first act of Will and Mar, and I'm just giving you this because it shows you the creation of 1688. It's a legitimate act. And what it says is an act removing the preventing and questioning all disputes concerning the assembly and sitting of the present parliament and parliament. So what that did is what they did was they abolished all the old rules where the king had supreme authority and he could rule and tax and do what he wanted. So this was the creation of the current government. That's basically what that comes down to. So if we go to the next slide, now we go to the Bill of Rights, okay? And then it says, we don't need to get into this, but it says where the Lord spiritual, temporal, and commons. So this was creating the House of Commons, okay?
Yep.
And what this tells you is that the Lord spiritual, well, that's obviously the church, right?
Yeah.
And temporal actually was there's three temporal things, which is actually the law, okay? That was the creation of the three things of law, if you want to call it that. And then, and then Commons was creating the House of Commons. So this was I'm just getting to the point, this was the creation of the current government.
Okay.
So now, if we go to the next slide, this is where it all gets important. This is, if you went down that other one part ways down, it says subjects' rights, okay? Now, I'm going to make Richard read that because this is important. Yeah.
Okay, just bear with me because I'm going to have to blow it up on my. You didn't tell me this, so I should have guessed, of course.
Of course, this yeah.
Right, here it is. I can make that a bit bigger for me. Right, so subjects' rights, and they do claim, demand, and insist upon all and singular the premises as their undoubted rights and liberties, and that no declarations, judgments, doings, or proceedings to the prejudice of the people in any of the
Nothing can be done to the prejudice of the people, guys. We've covered this in the primary legislation, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that means the people are the actual supreme, because if they can't do anything prejudiced to the people, then we have a right to say, hey, what you're doing is wrong, or we don't agree with it. So this government has its supremacy and all this garbage. That's junk, because the subjects' rights prevail. So this was the creation of the current government. Okay, now if we go to the next slide,
Right. If only somebody could tell them that.
You can copy it out of the freaking statute. It's right there.
Yeah, yeah. If only they would abide by it. I suppose that's what I mean.
Well, we always state that you know, you have to consent, right? You have to consent.
Yes.
Well, there's your proof. If you don't consent as a general public, and I don't mean one person, I mean if everybody says we're not doing this, this is against our rights, and it's against the people, it's prejudice to the people, go away.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to take our stand, right?
Right. Okay.
Okay. You thought you'd have to read the whole thing. I wasn't going to be that mean to you.
No, thanks. That's a relief.
So now, the next thing they did, the government, this was in 1707. This is a history lesson. We're coming forward to today. This Act of Union, which united England and Scotland, were passed during the reign of Queen Anne, not Queen Mary. Okay, so this is some different person. Remember, I said they have to go to the successors, and they always have to swear an allegiance. There's your proof. The Union of Scotland Act was in 1706. Okay, and it was passed by the Parliament of England. And then the Union Act was in 1707 for Scotland, right? So we got two different scenarios there. So it took a year to get the thing done, okay? And then this formation did form Great Britain. So what I'm telling you today applies to both England and Scotland. In fact, it applies almost everywhere that there's a British Commonwealth, if you want to call it that.
Right.
Okay? So they're basically merging two different parliaments. And it shows you that they're still operating under the Queen, even though it's a different Queen.
Yeah.
Right? Queen Anne versus Queen.
Everybody has seen the fraud there. Everybody is acknowledging that fraud with the man talk about.
Yeah, man.
In 1706, the Union of Scotland was formed. And then in 1707, the Union of England was formed. And today, what do we have? Great Britain. But it's a fraudulent merger because it says they merge the Parliament of England and Scotland to create a unified Parliament of Great Britain and establish a framework for a single kingdom with a single monarch. So the kingdom of Great Britain now is run by the fraudulent entity that call themselves the Spencers. These are German people. Because this is how the fraud come now, where this that they're trying to do, they're trying to make this now more powerful than the Magna Carta. But you understand what the Magna Carta was. The Magna Carta limit the royal family and don't have them above the law, the laws of the land. I want us to just make notes of these things because our documents, when we say that our documents subsede the crown, a lot of people are telling us that no, it can't succeed the crown. Not only was the crown beaten in 1738, it was beaten, and then they still want to go back and create the game all over again with different labels, for a better word. All right, but it's the said draconian corporation that we've beaten before.
Mary, okay?
Yeah.
So, next slide. Okay, now, this is really important. Now, this says Parliament's authority, right? And unfortunately, it's a little scrawny. But they say that they have basically supremacy, and I made this on the next slide so you can see it. So they can't get out of this either because it came right out of their website. Okay? Now, this is all important because the government figures it rules the people. Well, we're going to turn that bus around today. So if we go to the next slide, Richard, they're claiming three things, and if you need the link to look that up, there's the link applied on the bottom. It says parliamentary sovereignty is the principle of UK Constitution. Okay, the rest of it we're going to get into. I broke this thing down. So parliamentary sovereignty, what does that apply to, Richard? Based on our previous slide, it applies to anything that can't be done that's prejudiced to the people.
Well, I'm guessing it can't be done to us. It can be done to businesses or corporations.
Yeah, or persons. Watch this.
Well,
Now, if we go to the next slide, Richard, we're gonna end that myth today.
right.
Okay. Now it says it makes Parliament the supreme.
I want to stuck on you. I hope we're listening exactly what this gentleman is saying. Because if the government cannot take advantage of the people, but the parliament has become the principal sovereignty within the constitution. You understand what I go on? When you identify as a person now, that is just like what we were saying yesterday. When you identify, they say you are someone that is not you, the living man, because you is not a name. You is a term that they use to describe a product, not a living man. So I want us to really listen to this.
Supreme legal authority in the UK, which can create or end any law. That's malarkey, because it can't end the Magna Carta. They weren't part of it. They can't change it. So they just lied to you. That's perjury. In fact, it's on the public, so it's a conspiracy to commit fraud. Now, if it can create or make or cancel any law, can it cancel the subject's rights? No, because it wasn't part of that creation. That's the founding documents for the creation of your government.
So would their argument, and I've heard this, say, oh, but that's so, it's so archaic, all that old stuff, it's all old fashioned and we don't do things that way anymore. Now, I've heard people say that, or have had that said to them, by just sweeping away old stuff as if it no longer applies because we're in this new modern world.
Well, if the creation of the government doesn't apply, then the government's fraudulent. But so rather than get into that, we're going to even axe that even further today. That's why I said you want to dig out your pencils, because today we're going to axe everything.
Okay, good.
Now, let's go to the next slide. All I did was go down a paragraph. Generally, the courts cannot override this legislation. So can the courts override the Bill of Rights? No, it's right there in black and white. Can they override the Magna Carta? No. Can they override the subject's rights? No. Thank you. And that's right off their own website. I'm going to use it against them. Okay? And no parliament can pass a law that future parliaments can't change. That's malarkey too, because they can't change the Magna Carta. They can't change the Bill of Rights or the Great Seal Act or anything else that's listed in there. And here's the problem. When the government applies, so-called applies, this is a loose term, and they apply to make a statute, and it's supposed to receive royal assent from, the crown. Well, first off, isn't the crown like kind of dissolved now? But anyway, on top of that, if they apply for it, and let's say they get this bill passed through, whatever it is, right? Let's just call it the Bill of Rights for hypothetical terms. Now, if that got approved, okay, theoretically, because it never received royal assent, we already know that. Okay, if that's been approved, how do they have the authority to go back now and modify that act to make it different? Those revisions were never approved.
No, that's true.
So those revisions are garbage, right?
Right.
And where did their thing receive royal assent? I've never seen it. I've never seen a signature. And if it's done to the detriment of the people or to the prejudice of the people, it's null and void anyway, because the founding principle of the whole bloody thing was nothing can be done to the prejudice of the people.
Yes.
So your government's now lying to you. Is that not clear?
Well, it's very clear that they're lying to us, because that's all they can do.
That's right. So let's go on to the next slide, Richard. Now, Parliament can pass laws that future Parliament can't change. We just got rid of that. Parliamentary sovereignty is the most important part of the UK Constitution. Well, I don't know if I entirely agree with this, but anyway, we'll carry on, because we're going to axe all this garbage today anyway. This is the last day, right?
Yeah.
Now,
okay.
The parliamentary sovereignty in the UK Constitution is an uncodified, means that the UK doesn't have a single written constitution. What? They just admitted they don't have a single written constitution. So what is the Constitution? It has to go back to the the founding documents, i.e., the Magna Carta, the Bill of Rights. You know.
Yes, and also
Because
what is the UK itself? Because before we were talking about Britain.
Yeah. Well, the United Kingdom is Scotland and England and what we covered earlier.
Yes.
Right? So anyway, it says uncodified means the UK doesn't have a single written constitution. So that means because they don't have a constitution, Canada doesn't have one either. Not technically. We went through that. Canada's not real. We did a presentation on that. So if that's yeah, we did. So if that's the case, then we have to go back to the founding documents because we can say, okay, if you say this, then show us the Constitution, and there is none. So I have to pull everything in, and they admitted it.
I want to stop right there again. Did you hear what he said a while ago? That Great Britain, as what they're calling it, do not have a constitution. The Crown do not have a constitution. So the Crown is the head of the 54 Commonwealth. If the Crown don't have a constitution, what does the Commonwealth have? Not a constitution, but an order from the Queen. So all of these, that's why the Crown agents, they're operating on statutes and codes because no laws has been put into place that can override the Magna Carta. The Magna Carta is the foundation as far as the British Empire goes when it comes on to their right to govern. And as it says, the Magna Carta is the primary document that they use as a cornerstone for the Constitution. But when they merge Scotland and England, did they write a constitution then? Did it say they go back? Alrighty then. So that's why the narrator say that we have to go back to the Magna Carta because the Magna Carta governs both Scotland and England. Yeah, we're getting somewhere. I like this. Crystal is trying to get in. Crystal, coming back into the classroom.
Right.
Partly written and wholly uncodified. So the Magna Carta still stands. And if we went through the Magna Carta, I don't remember if we did a presentation on that or not. But anyway, there's certain, we didn't? Okay. There's certain rights and stuff in the Magna Carta. But if you want to talk archaic, well, we'll leave the 1215 Magna Carta. And then they come out with another one after that. Okay, which they didn't have the right to modify that either because they weren't part of the initial document. So now you got to check into which version of the Magna Carta you want to reference. But I use 1215 because that's what the government said, so I'll use theirs against them. So if we go to the next slide, we're going to start axing this thing. The developments affecting Parliament sovereignty. Over the years, Parliament has passed laws that limit the application of parliamentary sovereignty. Well, wait a minute. I thought you just finished telling me they had total supremacy and they could do what they wanted to. Well, now you're telling me this is out of their own website that they passed certain laws that limit what they can do. So they admit now they don't have parliamentary sovereignty. Okay. And then this is right off their website. All I did was print it out and bring it so you can read it. Now, it says the devolution of power of bodies like the Scottish Parliament. Okay. The Human Rights Act, 1998. The UK entry into the European Union in 1973, and then they exited in 2020. The declaration to establish UK Supreme Court in 2009, which ended the House of Lords function within the UK's final court of appeal. Okay, but this isn't an extensive list. Don't think this. Remember when I think we did one on legal words one time. The inclusion of one thing is the exclusion of everything else. Normally that would be true. But in this case, it should say they include but are not limited to.
Right.
Because what they did here, if you just base it off of this, then you don't have anything other than what that is. Okay? So if you ever read a legal document, you'll often find it says includes but isn't limited to. For example, and I'll give you this in English language so it's not this legalese garbage. Okay, we're all going out to dinner, and it includes chocolate cake for dessert. Okay, so you order your dinner, and they'll give you a chocolate cake as part of the deal. Now Richard comes along, he says, well, I don't like chocolate cake, so I would like lemon pie. Now they may accommodate you, and they might say, we don't have lemon pie because it only included chocolate cake, and that's what we made, so take it or leave it. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the word includes is not exclusive of everything, right?
Yes.
Right? Richard and I are going to go on vacation, and we're gonna include, his neighbor and the guy across the road. Does that mean everybody on the street can come? No, those two people, because we authorized it.
Right.
Right? It includes. So that's just a key word. Like they play games with you with words.
Okay.
Okay. Now it says in here, the developments do not fundamentally undermine the principle of parliamentary sovereignty. Well, they've already said that it's limited.
Yeah, they have.
So, yeah, Parliament could repeal any of the laws, not really, but anyway, they can't repeal the fundamental Bill of Rights. Otherwise, if they could appeal it and they said this is all we have to deal with, then they already admitted we don't have a constitution and it's not codified. So now the only thing we have to follow is this? No, clearly that's wrong. Right? So let's go to the next slide. We'll get rid of this. The Human Rights Act, 1998. Well, whatever happened to the Bill of Rights, 1688? First in time, right? First in line. That's a legal maxim. So because our stuff predates the 1998, then obviously our stuff still holds true. Otherwise, the creation of the crown, like when we got the king, he swore an oath to the crown, right?
Yeah.
Remember, then they had the Green Reaper in the back. You can see it there. Okay, well, if that wasn't true, if what I'm saying wasn't true, that they have to go back to the principal founding documents, well, then why did he swear an oath to the crown? Because the 1688 laws can't be repealed because that's the creation of your government. So that means those subjects' rights still stand today. So we are the supreme authority of the government. The government is not the supreme authority over us, because if it's done prejudice to the subject rights, and everybody that's I hate to use the term, a person in society is one of the subjects. I think that should be self-evident and clear by now.
Yeah.
So let's carry on, because we're going to really put Parliamentary Act 1911. This is where the government started to destroy persons' rights. Okay? This Parliamentary Act 1911, and there was one that subsequently followed it. What they were doing, and they talked here about the people's budget. It's about the fourth line down.
Oh yes.
Okay? And what they were trying to do is say that if they wanted to push something through, they had to take time for the people to review the public bill, and they could basically say, we don't agree with this. Because for any law, or we'll call it a law, any statute to come into force, they have to actually publicly post it and give the people a chance to, agree with it, file an appeal against it, say we totally don't want it, whatever.
Yes.
But most of the time, this is actually published in the Gazette. Now in Canada, we have a provincial Gazette in Ontario and Alberta, Saskatchewan, and so on and so forth. And they have a federal one. Well, you guys have the same thing.
What were we discussing yesterday as far as notifying the corporation? Isn't it the said thing you hear that the corporation must do when they're passing any status and code, any law? They have to print it in the Gazette so you can have a say. It still happens. It is still happening today, but they do not inform you in which paper. Just like if the government is going to pass any road works and those things, it has to print it so we, the people that hear it under the Magna Carta, can have a say in it. Remember, these are public servants.
But under the Magna Carta, not a lot of people know that they have a right to say something about it. And on top of that, they always try to use the media to offer up a distraction So then the
Yeah.
bill get passed, it go through, it's announced, nobody know that they can't say something about it, and it goes into effect. Or
All
that
right.
they believe.
The next trick in that, Empress, is that you notice, just like how when they print these things and put it in the Gazette, if nobody oppose it, it's a go, right? This is the said action that our notification carries.
Yes,
When
Yep,
we
I.
yep.
when we send them a notice, and we must remember from first what this brother said, only a corporation can
Talk to a corporation.
so much. So the straw man now, when any time we get into any alteration with the straw man, the living man has to come up and talk for the straw man, which is the corporation. I just want us to feel comfortable in what we're doing when we're doing it. We don't say, boy, I never know. So this, we need to assure ourselves that we're on the right path. So when we're doing the after Davis and doing the notification, we don't doubt ourselves, because here we have it in plain language telling you that the corporation operate in these contexts.
60 to 80% of people don't know that about a straw man or what a straw man is to even know that they need to come out of it. But yes, that's why it's important.
Yes, yes. We are going to tear down the birth paper soon, because I think I need to do a session on that, as to the number, the name, how we name, sign, and everything on it, so we can show that it is a living company that has wealth. But let us continue with tonight class. I just had to interject that.
Because if something isn't brought out to the public and the public have no input, then it's not legally binding. Now, when I did research on our Highway Traffic Act for Ontario, the first one came out in 1928, and it was to regulate commerce on the highway. Okay, and then they
to regulate what did you say?
Commerce on the highway.
Commerce, yeah.
Because the word traffic, okay, you heard of people drug trafficking? That's
Yes.
because it doesn't mean they're transporting drugs. It means they're actually selling drugs commercially to make a profit.
Right.
Okay. Well, okay. So anyway, the Highway Traffic Act was to help people that they had to pay because they were using the road for commerce.
Yes.
Now they twisted it over the years, and now everybody has to get a driver's license.
Because we all think that we are part of the traffic, but we're not really part of it. We're not selling anything.
Yo, people, we're soaking it up, right? We're soaking it up, because you're hearing at the word traffic, as what you just break it down for us, comes off of when you're profiting from commerce. So if you're driving in your own private convenience going home,
Traveling.
you're traveling, and a crown officer said, we're stopping you for traffic offense. Is he talking to you?
No.
No.
Hell
No, you're not in their jurisdiction. The words, my brothers and sisters, is very, very, very important as to how they trap us in the persona of being a person.
And we're
That's
privately
right.
going about in our conveyance like we used to do.
Right. And
you were going to say something? No? Okay.
the word driver, if you look in Black's Law 4th, it says one being employed. So if you're not being employed by somebody, why do you have to get a driver's license? And in fact, you're going to find out today that you don't. Now, if you go to the petrol station and buy your diesel or your gas, whatever, there is a road tax.
Yes.
Now, I might be slightly off on this, but I think in the UK it's around 76%, something like that you pay in road tax. And that's to pay for the infrastructure of the road. So therefore, if you're paying for the infrastructure of the use of the road, why can't you use the bloody thing?
Well, yeah. Why are there potholes?
Yeah, exactly. And as we know, and you covered this on your show previously, that when we deal with council tax, part of that is supposed to pay for the infrastructure. Now, we both know, and we've already disclosed this, that what they do is they take all those funds and they put it in a consolidated fund and they siphon off what they deal with. In fact, we covered a little bit of that in our last program. So anyway, this is what they did. So they wanted to give people less time to appeal a notice that came into the government, and then they were trying to crunch it down. And if we go to the next act or next slide, they did the same thing in 1949, and basically they tried to push it through so they could get things put through the government faster with less input from the so-called public, right?
Right.
That's what this comes down to. So I'm telling you, why would they have these acts unless what I stated earlier, where a person had time to say, hey, we don't agree with this as a general population, but they shortened it. And what they do now, a lot of times, is some yo-yo in the government will write up some big massive book and they have to get this thing pushed through so nobody has a chance to read it. Because if they did, people would say, what the heck, this isn't right. And they don't announce it to the public, so that means all the statutes and acts that were not properly put through the Gazette are of no force and effect because the people had no chance to appeal it or no chance to object to it.
Well, nobody knows. I mean, we had that last year with the modification of animals thing that came out. The king, suddenly it was just like given royal assent. And I think they put it on their website for about a week. So, you know, they could say, well, it was on the website if you didn't see it. But who's checking the website every day to see if the government are doing some nefarious act to get the royal assent? Nobody.
Yeah, if they say they put it on their website, say, well, okay, where is it? Because you just capture the website. So, well, I don't see it. It wasn't there.
No, that is a form of digital terrorism. You know that, right? Yeah, because what the yes, the government is supposed to deal with you as a living man or woman, and by using the postal system, which is over the corporation, they can be held accountable. But when they do this via digital emails and all these things, an email can be wiped out, untraceable. Can't find a trace like. So the corporation will take time and manipulate us. And that's as the gentleman said, who is actually there for the people monitoring the government website? No, it's not. I have put inside the chat some of the information that is being displayed tonight as far as Public Bodies Corrupt Policies Act of 1889. These reflection from the crown also comes down to the territory that the crown has captured. And this will also help us release ourselves from some of the obligation that the crown itself has no authority to put over us as sovereign brothers and sisters. So I would hope that you go and check it out. Any person convicted or for offending or shall be discreet. I'm just reading some of the things that I put inside there that you can refer to. But I think that this material here, it's an hour, and I'm not going to stay here for the entirety of it, but I'll be sharing it inside the group. So you can, maybe if you choose to listen to the entirety, I'm going to try to reach down to the part that he discussed about being a person.
It says so right in your own document. So if one document's good to hang me, then the other document's good to hang you. All are equal under the law. No one's above the law. Now, this thing goes through and it explains what can be done against these, corporate scumbags, if you want to call them that.
Well, you just did.
Yeah, I just did. Because I had enough of this. When I was doing this, I was like, good, now we're going to do something to benefit to the people. Because everybody says, well, I'm not the capitalized name. The name's in reverse. All this crap. I don't care about that. If you're statute under the Highway Traffic Act or Traffic Management Act, as you call it, whatever, applies to me, then this Interpretations Act also applies. And they can't get out of it. Their feet are screwed to the floor. They can't move.
Yeah.
It's your act, for crying out loud. All I did was read it and apply it.
Yes.
And I'm not a persons, I'm not plural, and I'm not a body corporate.
And they can't go back and just change it. They can't just go back and say, oh, we'll take the S off there so nobody notices.
No, they can't.
No.
No. That act is in Parliament, and they weren't part of the ones that created it. And that was back in the 70s. Do you think anybody that worked in the government is still working for the government today?
No.
No. Okay, let's carry on, Richard. But anyway, read this thing, guys, if you want to go after your so-called government.
Yeah.
Next slide. Okay. Now, oh, look. Penalties for offenses. Any person. Convictions, okay? And then this thing goes through. If you want to read all that, if you don't bother. But anyway, it tells you right in there what you can do to these people, right? Public officer, 7 years for crime. Okay, go ahead and read it, because you might as well. Somebody can write this stuff down.
Okay. Any person on conviction for offending as aforesaid shall, at the discretion of the court before which he is convicted, A, be liable to be imprisoned for any period not exceeding 2 years, with or without hard labour. I'd like to see some hard labour going on. Or to pay a fine not exceeding £500, or to both such imprisonment and such fine. And B, in addition, to be liable to be ordered to pay to such body and in such manner as the court dictates or directs even the amount or value of any gift, loan, fee or reward received by him or any part thereof. C.
If we stop there, Richard, for a sec, just for a sec. So when the council gives you a tax bill, right? Part of their paycheck goes into this thing, so they receive part of it. So that applies to anybody trying to enforce their government garbage, because their paycheck is dependent on this. So they have to return that all back to you. So that means you can get all your taxes back now that you paid for this council tax, which you accidentally paid in error. Same with your HMRC.
Yes.
Right? Because it's right there in black and white. Now, carry on.
C, be liable to be adjudged incapable of being elected or appointed to any public office for 7 years from the date of this conviction, and to forfeit any such office held by him at the time of his conviction. And
so we can kick them out of their job. Good.
Which would be nice.
Yeah.
D, in the event of a second conviction for a like offence, he shall, in addition to the foregoing penalties, be liable to be adjudged to be forever incapable of holding any public office, and to be incapable for 7 years of being registered as an elector or voting at an election, either of members to serve in the Parliament or its members of any public body, and the enactments for preventing the voting and registration of persons declared by reason of corrupt practices to be incapable of voting shall apply to a person adjudged in pursuant of this section to be incapable of voting. And finally, E, if such person is an officer or servant in the employ of any public body, such as upon such conviction, he shall, at the discretion of the court, be liable to forfeit his right and claim to any compensation or pension to which he should otherwise have been entitled.
No, I would think that would apply to the entire government, wouldn't it?
And it is interesting that all of that is, none of that seems to apply to any ordinary, everyday member of the public, or just man or woman going about their business. It's all about people in office, isn't it?
Right, because that dealt with public, right? So that tells you, because those guys are all public officials. The courts are public, the council people are public. That's a public building.
I want to ask a question. Is there any public living man or woman here? Okay. No. Because we're all private. We're all private. And what we must, as a private, acts and status does not apply to you, the living man. But if you're working in the public, all of the status and acts that is on the book can be related to you. And this that they just read out a while ago was some of the penalties that goes with you as a public person, yes, you're under the belt of the organization. So I wanted to just put that out.
Yeah.
So now there's what they're liable for,
Right.
and they can't get out of it because it's right in their own laws. Right?
Yeah.
Use their laws against them.
So we could be writing to them and saying, by the way, you've all this malfeasance and what have you. You are liable. Here we go.
That's right.
Hand yourself in to the local nearest police station, please.
And the thing is, if the court won't do something, we actually have the authority to generate and make our own court.
Right.
So when people go into court, a lot of times they say, well, they want a trial by jury or jury trial, right? And the people
Yes.
get confused. So let's just recall this thing to something else. We want an independent jury. Just use that term. Because then
Right.
they're independent of the government. There is no confusion. Simplify it down so even a layman can understand it.
Yes.
So now we've canceled HMRC, right?
Yeah.
We showed you what they can be done against them. So let's carry on because we're going to axe the rest of this today too. Okay. Now, what does this thing tell us?
This one says, where an offence under this act is also punishable under another enactment or at common law, such offence may be prosecuted and punished either under this act or under the other enactment, or at common law, but so that no person shall be punished twice for the same offence.
Right. So when you do your paperwork and draft it up, make sure you hit them with the most severe penalty.
Absolutely. Number 2, a person shall not be exempt from punishment under this act by reason of the invalidity. I can't say it. Invalidated. Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. Of the appointment or election of a person to public office.
Now, didn't the government tell us they had the sovereignty? I'm sorry, but you don't have sovereignty. It's right in your own act. Oh. Number 4.
Number 4, this is a restriction to prosecution. It says a prosecution for an offence under this act shall not be instituted except by or with the consent of the Attorney General.
And how can the Attorney General go against his own statute that he wrote or he let go through?
Yeah, no, he couldn't.
Exactly. So now we got a way to hold these people accountable.
And the final bit here is in this section, the expression Attorney General means the Attorney or Solicitor General for England, and as respects Scotland means the Lord Advocate, and as respects to Ireland means the Attorney or Solicitor General for Ireland.
Right. So this applies to those guys for sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool beans.
Yeah. Next.
Okay.
Now,
this is quite small, but I can read that. Yep. Number 5, expenses of prosecution. The expenses of the prosecution of an offence against this act shall be defrayed in like manner as in the case of a felony.
And what is felony? Felony is criminal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the last one here is jurisdiction of quarter sessions. A court of general or quarter sessions shall in England have jurisdiction to inquire of, hear, or determine an offence under this act.
So now they can't claim they got sovereignty, can they? Because it says right there that the court has jurisdiction. Now, in the old days, they used to have what they call quarterly sessions, and they didn't have court every day. That was like 4 times a year.
Yes.
So we will apply the modern standard. So they can't say, well, we have sovereignty. We're the crown. No, sorry. This thing says otherwise. Right?
Yeah.
So,
and
they can't. That's it. They're done.
They're done. And we can point exactly to their rules.
All right. I think I'm going to post that inside the classroom, but wanted to just show us tonight our rights that we stand on, because at this crucial time we're going to have a lot of challenge, and I find some of our brothers and sisters are slipping back into the frame of mind of as if the corporation is more powerful than we the people. We are more powerful than the corporation, but we just need to stand on the principle. And I think we've been given a document. Now we are notifying. Feels so good. They can send an after Davis. And Brother Nigel, I am going to try to call you after class and send the after Davis to you. It's inside the classroom, but I was searching for it today. And there's several of these after Davis. So I'm going to send the one for the age of maturity. I think you need that one. And then the next one of ownership, I have to send it to you. I'm going to replace it back in the classroom so we can do that. Now, last night I was showing how we do a notice. I'm going to try for tomorrow to make our classroom have a whiteboard as to doing notification, because there is 9 or 10 institutions that we want to send out our notification to, so they can recognize our rights and that we're actually fully in control of our estate. Is there any question?
So based on all of these notifications, when we decide for to make a trip go a yard,
Yeah.
we have to go notify them. We have to notify them too before we make the trip.
Yeah, but it's done there so the airline have to get notified. So when you buy your ticket, you make sure. So when you're talking to that representative for the airline that they're purchasing a ticket, every information and notice must be on your ticket. But when you reach the terminal or reach the port of check-in, the agent that is there can read the fine print. Remember,
So that this be
you have to take care of
this
yourself.
be the,
Yeah.
yeah, this be the case. Best we go to actually a booking agent for do this one
Yep.
instead of actually booking on the internet yourself. You know.
No, because remember, say the digital piracy is very cunning. So even if you're doing it via digital, make sure that everything comes back to you physical with the information that you've given to the artificial intelligence. Okay? It's very important that when you reach and you check in for your ticket, you have it in your hand. So sit there, the agent tell you who I was. Just like if you purchase a first class ticket, the agent put it to your first class. Them when you reach at the airport, they must be dealing like a first class, don't
Yeah, so
notice.
it's supposed to. But like you said, you have the digital trickery. So I rather
Yeah,
go on agent first time and make sure everything is in the system the right way first time.
no problem with that. I think that is exactly one of the way forward that we have to deal with our estate. If this is our estate and you don't want, the list is there, and we don't want at any time the content that we supposed to notify these people through with is not at their disposal. We have to practice. I think we as the male also, seeing that we have females who can assist us, but we as the male have to practice them thing, yeah, man. Yeah, chat GPT, yeah, purchase it. That's all you have to go in at chat GPT. Write a after Dave, write a notification to the Secretary of State. And two tools, it come up with everything. But you have to put in the precise information that you want it to look about for you. I am putting the after Davis, Brother Nigel, inside of the chat, the classroom, and I'm sending it to you personally. Just did it. It's right at your disposal.
Yes, sir. Give thanks.
If thanks. All right. Any more question? I don't know where multitask. Sister Abina, Good, brother James, brother Danny.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Any question before we come to the climax of our presentation for tonight?
Just my question would be, I put it on the chat earlier. Can we have the forms in color rather than black?
Oh, which one of the forms you're talking about again?
Remember when I received the application
The
for my,
application point well
the
taken.
documents? Yeah, most of everything is in black print.
Yes. We can we
So
can we can update that.
yeah, please, because I
I
can't really use them anymore. I cannot use them.
I will try to get that remedy for you for tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Any more question, brothers and sisters? Brother James, you good?
Yeah, man. Me
All
gonna
right.
link you up.
Give me a call. Give me a call. All right,
Yeah,
brother
man.
Kareem, brother Errol. Tomorrow, tomorrow we shall be inside the classroom again. And I just put back the after Davis. I would love tomorrow when I ask everybody finish this after Davis in particular that have not done it as yet. Age of maturity. It is so simple. It's just to put in your name, where you reside, and the state, and you're gonna do the necessary and sign it and have it inside when we say we're going to send it off, because this one is supposed to send also to, do I need to put inside the classroom the places that we're sending these notification and after Davis? I can do that. I am going to.
Please do. I think I
Yeah.
have it already, but for who don't have it or who just came to class, then
Yes, I am doing that right
So,
now, so we can be familiar with it. Get familiar, go on the website, and try to learn about the places that you're sending these, the agencies that you will be sending these notification. It is inside of the classroom. I just put it inside here. Yeah, because how you word these notification to these agency will be very, very,
yeah.
very much important. You can, as I said, Chat GPT is going to help you write it, but then you have to go and look at the agent to see what their authority looks like, what kind of rules and regulation them have over the straw man. You know, these are things that we can do collectively, or we can do it in our own little time. We have to learn to, not everything you're going to learn in the classroom. Sometimes you have to go out there and do your own practicality to really get the answers. All right. So, with that said, can I say we shall be? Go ahead.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
say one more thing? When because I remember, I don't remember which document it is because I'm not looking at it right this moment, but I was filling it out and I really had to redo it because it said the state of, and when it says the state of, that's a corporation, but you can say like if you say Florida State or New York State or you know Nebraska State or whatever, but when it says state of, that's the corporation. So I had to
Yes.
reword that.
Well, it is not made in stone, and this is just one of the example that we can choose from. But as you just pointed out, sister, if you need to do a bit of house cleaning on the wording, you can do it. So long says it makes sense. And remember that the corporation will use word for word to try to trap you. So be mindful of the after Davis, be mindful of the notification. Run it through a couple. checkpoints among ourselves before we just say, yeah, man, this me I send it. All right? Because
Yes, sir.
yeah, we have internet emails, you can send them over and say, Russ, read out that me you are going. And then we can maybe I will see something that you may have overlooked.
Give thanks to that.
Yeah, give thanks. All right, at this time, I think the class is coming to the end. And as we say, we shall have
We shall have. We shall have.
We shall be.
We shall have. We shall have. We shall have. All